Good morning, pony followers of mine. This is DJZ coming to you live. Today we have a little something special. I am doing my first episode review for you guys. Now, due to, I don't know how many, viewers out there or listeners out there have seen all the episodes. So I'm going to start from the beginning with season 1, of course, episode 1. Friendship is Magic, Part 1. This episode basically just introduces us to the main six. Twilight Sparkle is coming to town, or sent on a mission, to check for, or how the preparations are going for a huge equestrian event. So it starts out by the story of the two princesses. One raises the moon, which is Luna. One raises the sun, which is Celestia. And it goes on to say they lived in harmony, but then the sister grew jealous because the ponies were awake while for her sister's time, but they would sleep when the moon was out. So she grew dark and cold, and she turned into what is now known as Nightmare Moon. She was banished to the moon for 1,000 years, and that's where our first of the main six comes in, and that is Twilight Sparkle. Twilight Sparkle is basically just focused on her reading. Like, she's reading about this, and she's connecting the dots. 1,000th year, summer solstice moon, and she's like, oh my gosh, Nightmare Moon is gonna break free this year. Just out of the blue. She connects it all. So she's like, oh, I don't have time for any friends or anything. I have to warn the princess about this. And she warns the princess, and the princess is like, oh, Twilight, you pay too much attention to all these storybooks. I'm going to ship you off to Ponyville to check on the summer solstice plans, but not only do that, but also make some friends. My best friend Michaela just woke up. Or sat on my cat. So back to the episode. So I'm following the episode on my TV right now so that I don't get anything messed up for you guys. So she's not too happy about going to Ponyville, but she's staying in a library. And as soon as she hears the word library, she perks up. So her character kind of comes off as, okay, I don't care about anybody else, I just care about the books. So she arrives in Ponyville, and she lands, and the first pony she meets is Pinkie Pie. But we don't really get introduced with Pinkie Pie, because what happens is Pinkie Pie sees her and reacts, and is all like, and then runs off. So it's like, we never, we don't know her name, we don't know any background, we don't know how her personality is. We just see this little pink pony jumping into the air with a huge gaping mouth and then sprinting off into Nowhere Land. The next of the main six that she meets is Applejack. And when she meets Applejack, she's checking on the food preparations. Now, I kind of like this part because it shows that Applejack is really, outgoing. She's really a peppy pony, and she's really close to her family because as Twilight Sparkle is there, she wants to, quote, taste some of the preparations, and the whole Apple family comes in, or like half of the Apple family comes in. So I really like how that shows that, the Apple family is really close to each other. And, like, they all work as a team for everything. The next pony she meets is, of course, Dash. Now, when she meets Dash, she's like, oh, okay, this is this pony, Pegasus pony, who just pushed me into the mud, and then, soaked me with rainwater, and messed up my hair. So, she's kind of like, okay, this pony isn't really focused. I'm a little worried about, the weather getting done. And Dash is all free Philly, and she's all like, okay, let's have fun. Let's, laugh and carry on, and don't worry about the weather clearing the sky. I need to practice. Practice for what? The Wonderbolts, of course. Dash is obsessed with the Wonderbolts from the very beginning. She is just, that's all she's about. So, Twilight Sparkle, in a way, manipulates her into clearing the sky and says, well, the Wonderbolts, because she's from Canterlot, she knows the Wonderbolts, wouldn't appreciate or, wouldn't really acknowledge someone who can't even do a measly task as keeping the sky clear. And that triggers Dash. She's just like, hey, I can clear this sky in 10 seconds flat. And Twilight's like, do it. So Dash rushes around, and if you watch the episode on YouTube, you can actually pause it from the time Twilight says, do it, and the time Dash is finished. It is 10 seconds. Exactly. Like, I don't know if the Raiders tried that or something, but it's pretty awesome. Of course, Twilight is like at sound. So, she then, carries on with her work, and the next pony is Rarity! Woo! I don't really care for her. She's a little bit of a snooty brat, if you ask me. So, she walks in and she sees all these beautiful decorations, and, you can tell it's a really high-end pony with a ponytail, and then you see this white unicorn, and it's like, Spike immediately falls in love. This is the first point where Spike's crush on Rarity, takes form. And Rarity turns around, and she's just, in shock because of Twilight's mane. That's completely screwed up at this point. Because of Dash. So, we are like, okay, what's going on here? Rarity's trying to help, quotes around help, Twilight, and, fix her outfit, fix her mane, make her look pretty again. It's all, yeah, yada yada yada. And then she's focused on, the fashion, and then she hears that Twilight's from Equestria, and she's all like, oh, Equestria royalty! And it's really funny, because then she's like, oh my god, I can tell we're gonna be the best of friends! And then it's right back to the fashion. So she's like all about the fashion. Doesn't matter. Anything else doesn't matter. It's all about the fashion. So, the next pony is my personal favorite pony, Fluttershy. And, Twilight walks in, she sees Fluttershy, and Fluttershy's working with the birds, and she's really sweet and laid back. And Twilight says hi, the birds get scared away, and Fluttershy just goes whoop, into a little Pegasus Billy. I don't know this person, so I'm not going to talk to them. And she just kind of kicks at the ground, and then Twilight's like, well, what's your name? And Fluttershy can, mutter her name, but she can't say it, and then she ends up, squealing. So she's not, you get the sense that she's not really this open Pegasus pony. She's just this little yellow, shy person, which fits her name. She flutters around, and she's shy. Fluttershy. Until Spike shows up, of course. Spike walks in and she's like, oh, it's a baby dragon! And she's all open, and it's crazy. Because then she starts talking and she won't shut up. And then Spike asks, well, what do you want to know about me? And she goes, absolutely everything. And Twilight's like, oh dear, because she's focused on, okay, the preparations are checked. Let me get to the library so I can do research. She's still focused on that research at this point. She just won't let it go. It's ridiculous. So they get back to the treehouse, which is the library. Twilight walks in and she's complaining about all these crazy ponies. And all of a sudden the lights flick on and every pony in Ponyville is there. Like, she's like, what the heck is going on here? That's when we officially meet Pinkie Pie. Pinkie Pie, the party pony. I don't know if there's much else I can say. But, she's just jumping around, being Pinkie. She's jumping around, she's talking nonstop, she's on hyper overload. It's pretty interesting, I'll tell you that much. I had to watch the scene like 3 times the first time I saw it, just to comprehend, like, how much energy Pinkie Pie has. She's ridiculous. It's awesome. So, you've met the main 6, and Twilight goes up into her little room because she's like, I don't want to deal with this. It's the night before the summer solstice, and I'm worried about Nightmare Moon breaking free. So, the party goes on downstairs, and then comes the next morning. So, they all gather in big auditorium, and Mayor Mare is there. Now, Mayor Mare is, of course, a mayor. She is a female, and she's the mayor of the town. She's in charge. So her name is Mayor Mare. It's weird. I don't know where they came up with it, but it works. So Mayor Mare is making announcements, and Twilight's looking around. She's like, something's gonna go wrong, something's gonna go wrong. She peers out the window, and on the moon, you can see Luna's figure, and all of a sudden, sparkles, like 3 little sparkles, touch the moon, and her figure just disappears. Her head on the moon disappears. So it's like, oh snap, this isn't gonna go down well. So, Mayor announces the arrival of Princess Celestia. Princess Celestia is the head of Canterlot, the head of everything. The president, the overlord, the whatever you want to call her. She's the all-powerful, the almighty, but she's gone. She doesn't appear, she doesn't walk out, she's just gone. She disappeared. So we don't know where she went. We don't find out if she was, stolen or kidnapped, or if she was just like, okay, I'm gonna throw these ponies for a loop because I'm twisted and I have my awkward ways of saying this is what you need to learn. So she runs away? Nobody knows. I mean, nobody really knows where she went. That's never stated. I kind of think she ran away. Up to anybody else what they want to think. But, so, anywho, Celestia's gone, and all of a sudden you see this dark blue pony figure appear, and she's all like, hello, my fellow subjects. And she's this dark pony, and it's beautiful. Like, the evilness is creepy, but it makes it beautiful. I don't know how else to explain it. But the pony is Nightmare Moon, and nobody remembers her. Nobody thinks she's anything but an old ponytail. But Twilight Sparkle is like, I know who you are. You're Nightmare Moon, and you are here to. And then it goes, like, the scene closes, and it's like, to be continued. So, overall, I mean, they made the first episode a cliffhanger, so I kind of thought that was interesting, and I don't really want to go, like, I could go into part 2 of it, but, I mean, yeah, I might as well. I can do that. I can go into part 2. Part 2 isn't that much to explain. Part 2 has a little flashback, at the beginning, and then it starts right where we left off after, after everything happened and Nightmare Moon appeared. And then the first real scene of it is Twilight searching through all of her books to see, okay, I heard something about how to defeat Nightmare Moon. Now, where is it? And Dash runs in and accuses her of being a spy. Lovely, Dash. Just glorious. Like, how do you go off and be like, okay, you're a spy, Twilight. You knew about this. You have to be a spy. Just no. So, Applejack walks in and she explains everything. Or Twilight explains everything. And they're looking around for the book, and Pinkie Pie, randomly, out of every pony, just randomly goes, the elements of harmony. Twilight, where was that? Under E? Dumb moment. Like, it's one of the biggest dumb moments in, like, one of the whole shows. One of the whole episodes. It's like, right off the back. It's kind of funny because it shows that Twilight is so nervous and so, like, freaked out that she's just scattering. Like, she's a scatterbrain. It's priceless. So, then it turns to the Everfree Forest. And they're all trotting into the Everfree Forest. And there's this horrible mistake that I don't know if everybody notices, but this is one of the funniest episodes because there's 3 major mistakes in the animation. I hate to point this out, but Dash is missing a tail when they first walk in to the Everfree Forest. Just, it's priceless. It truly, truly is priceless. But they're all nervous and they're walking into the forest. Well, apparently Dash is so laid back about it, she forgot her tail. So, moving on. As they're walking through the Everfree Forest, the Everfree Forest part about it is basically just them learning and, like, at the same time us learning what each of their elements are. Like, it starts out with Applejack and they fall down this cliff and Applejack catches Twilight and she's like, Twilight, let go. And Twilight's like, what? Are you crazy? And Applejack's like, no, just trust me. It's the honest truth. You'll be okay. And she's being honest about it. Her element is honesty. Then the next scene is with the Manicore, and it shows Fluttershy's kindness because everyone else sees the Manicore, and the Manicore is going off, like, off his topper, and they're just all beating up on him, and Fluttershy's like, enough! You just need to show him some kindness. And turns out all that was wrong was he had a little thorn in his foot. But because she was kind to him, like, they got to pass and he was okay. And then next is, oh my gosh, Pinkie Pie's song! One of the first songs actually the first song in the entire series is Giggle at the Ghosties. And what this song is basically about is Pinkie Pie just giggling at these crazy, scary faces that appear at the trees. And all of this stuff is happening because Nightmare Moon is making it happen all along. But it's like Pinkie Pie's element of laughter just it overpowers the weird faces and they get past it with, like, no problem. Like, they're not creeped out or anything. The next element is rarities. They get to the sea serpent, or they get to this sea that they have to cross, and there's a serpent in it, and he's crying his eyes out. And I find it funny that Rarity and the sea serpent are alike. All they care about is fashion and how they look. Because the sea serpent, something came across, he said, and chopped off part of his moustache. I call it a mustache, but because he calls it a moustache, I have to call it a moustache. That is kind of fun to say. Moustache. Try it. So, he's worried about his moustache, and Rarity's like, okay, I'm gonna show my generosity and chop off my own tail and give it to him or use my magic to incorporate it in his moustache. So, the generosity is shown, and they move on. So she's the element of generosity. The last element, well, second to last element, because Twilight doesn't figure hers out till later, but the next element is Rainbow Dash, and they come across a bridge, and there's no way to cross it. So Dash has to fly over, and she comes across these Nightmare Moon magical made ponies, 3 of them, and they call themselves the Shadow Bolts, the best flyers in the Everfree Forest. And they offer her dream spot. And it's that, oh, we need a leader. Will you take this opportunity, give up your friends, join the Shadow Bolts, and become a leader? But no, she doesn't. She stands strong, she stands up to them, and she's loyal to her friends. So she fixes the bridge, and they cross, and the Shadow Bolts go poof and disappear, showing Dash is the element of loyalty. So they get to this big old, like, ancient mansion, and they walk in and they see the 5 elements, and Twilight's trying to make a quote spark, because with the first spark the elements or the 6th element will appear, and she needs all 6. But Nightmare Moon shows up and steals the elements away. So she goes through and she gets poofed to another part of the mansion, but the other 5 rush to find her, and then when they rush in, she realizes, hey, okay, Nightmare Moon may have the elements, and Nightmare Moon is like smash and destroys the elements into, like, they just shatter, which I think is kind of odd, because if they're magical they shouldn't shatter. But whatever. Twilight says, who cares? Smash the elements, because the true power of the elements stands within me. And she points out everyone's element: honesty, laughter, kindness, generosity, loyalty. And then she says, it all ties together with the element of, and the 6th element appears, and she says, magic. I don't know about you guys, but when I heard magic, I was like, no. It should be friendship. It's ridiculous. I honestly don't know. But they use the elements, and it zaps Nightmare Moon and turns her back to her original self, which is Luna. Randomly, out of nowhere, Celestia appears. She comes through the window as a big bright light, and then just appears. I don't know. She finally shows up. She misses all the action. Just poof, finally shows up. So she's talking. She explains. She's like, hey, okay, I sent you on this mission just saying that you needed to make friends, knowing that knowing that the main 6 would be the one to discover the elements and be able to defeat Nightmare Moon. It's like, why didn't you just say that in the first place? I showed Michaela these 2 episodes, and she's like, why would you talk in riddles? Just explain it. And it's like, no, that's Celestia. She likes to cause some trouble, but at the same time, she does it for the good. It's like, she poses a challenge. But, so, she goes back and she tells a minor story about how Luna is her sister, and the main six are like, what? Sister? We didn't know you had a sister. She has a sister. So, it's like, they have a little sisterly moment, Luna and Celestia, and then it turns to the main six, and the main six are all leaning forward. And here's where the second huge mistake is. Pinkie Pie falls over, and she doesn't have ears. Like, I honestly think that she fell over because she doesn't have ears. Like, I know that's not the reason, but she's off balance. She's just plump, no ears, clear as day. And then the third huge mistake is following that. And she's like, it's a funny mistake, and everyone makes fun of it on the internet. Like, I love it. And that is, you might have heard of it, Swan Celestia. There's a frame where Luna runs crying to her sister, and it's this really sweet moment. And then, if you look in the corner, it's like, Celestia doesn't have a plot. Where did her butt go? Like, it's not on the screen where it should be. So, I don't know. It's a really sweet moment, everyone's cheering up. Pinkie's crying her eyes out, and then she's back to normal. It's Pinkie. And then, of course, Pinkie Pie, you know what this calls for? A party! So, they have a party, and the two princesses ride in on a carriage, and this is like wrapping up. So, fast forward a little. Twilight. At this part, Twilight's like, okay, I completed my mission. Now I have to go home. You'd think she'd be excited, right? Nope. She doesn't want to leave because she finally figured out what friendship meant. She could have figured that out earlier if she would have given it a chance. But she was too stuck up and she had to learn the hard way. But she learned nonetheless. So Celestia's like, Spike, take a note. From this day forward, Twilight will report to me from her new home in Ponyville. And Twilight's all like, yes! And the rest of the group comes around and they're like, yes! So, the main six is formed. And Nightmare Moon is destroyed. And the moral of this full episode, both parts, is, I don't really know. I mean, there's a couple different things. Be true to yourself. Learn to open up and have the possibility of friends. You can't always do things on your own. There's, it pays to be kind, it pays to be generous, it pays to be loyal. There's just a bunch of different morals that really come out of this one. Normally they only have one, but I can understand why this one has more than one. So, I mean, take it your way. So that's basically the first two episodes. You meet the main six, learn about the elements of harmony, and see a few funny mistakes, and meet Luna and Nightmare Moon. Nightmare Moon is our first villain. Luna comes back from her. And then it's like, hey, Luna's gonna be a big part of this series. Well, not exactly. But I'll be saving that for another time. And with that, I think we will close out. I do hope to get better on these episode reviews. This was my first time. So, yeah. Enjoy your day, and I will see you either later on if Michaela and I do a feed together again, or tonight at 9 for Nightly Tunes. Have a good day, everypony.